Compounding does not feel like anything. That is the first thing they leave out. They show you the chart. The curve that bends upward in the final third, slowly and then suddenly, like something arriving from a very long way off. They show you the number at year 30. They point at the bend in the line and say, "This is where the patience pays off." And then they move on to the next slide, the next concept, the next thing they intend to teach you. They say nothing, not one word, about what patience actually feels like from the inside. It does not feel like discipline. It does not feel like foresight. For the first several years, it feels like nothing at all. Like maintaining a habit whose purpose lives so far in the future that the future might as well be a story. You put the money in. The account grows by an amount you could earn in an afternoon. You go on with your week. This is not a failure of your character. This is not impatience dressed up as patience. This is the thing itself. This is what compounding is. The cost is not in dollars. The cost was never in dollars. What they leave out is the middle. The long, undramatic, sensation-free middle where the machine runs and you run alongside it. And nothing confirms you are going in the same direction. The years between the first contribution and the bend in the curve. Those years have a texture. They have a weight that is not financial. No one draws a chart of that. This is what compounding actually costs you. You are 27. You have opened an account. A retirement account, a brokerage account, whatever the correct vehicle is for your situation. And you have automated a monthly contribution. You did not do this because it felt right. You did not feel anything in particular when you set it up. You did it because someone older than you, a woman whose judgment you trusted, told you to do it before you had reasons not to. Before life became expensive. Before the present started competing seriously with the future. So you did. You check the balance after 3 months. It has grown by $62. You check it again at 6 months. $214 in growth. You go out to dinner one Thursday and spend $140. And feel more than you have felt looking at that account in half a year. The dinner is present tense. The account is future tense. These two things do not yet speak the same language. You are 28. The balance has crossed 5 figures. You stare at the number for a moment. You expected to feel something. You feel a faint, dry recognition, like completing a task on a list you forgot you were keeping. You go back to your week. You are 29. You have not told most people about the account. Not from secrecy, but from the particular difficulty of explaining a project whose output is not yet visible. What would you say? The money is growing slowly. The sentence aloud produces nothing in anyone listening. So you stop saying it. You keep putting money in. You are 30. You have been doing this for 3 years. The account has grown. Genuinely grown. Not just from your contributions, but from returns that are beginning to layer on top of each other. And the growth is real, and is also, still, effectless. Numbers on a screen. The shape of the curve is beginning to suggest something. You look at the chart projection for year 15, and you feel, briefly, the distance between now and then as a physical weight. 30 to 45. 15 years. You close the application. What no one tells you about in those years is not the math. The math is straightforward and available and true. What no one tells you about is the particular experience of sustaining belief in something that does not confirm itself. Something that works entirely without your feeling it work. Something that asks you month after month to continue a practice that returns to you nothing but the practice itself. This is what compounding actually costs you, not the contributions, not the opportunity cost, not the foregone dinner, or the delayed renovation, or the trip you take a year later than you might have. The cost is the sustained maintenance of a faith in something invisible. The rule, the first one, is this: faith is not a feeling. Faith is a practice sustained in the absence of feeling. You have been taught about compounding as if knowing the mathematics were the difficulty. It is not. The mathematics are learnable in 40 minutes. They are correct. They are not in dispute. The concept of exponential growth is not a secret that requires special access. Any person with a calculator and an afternoon can verify the curve for themselves. What the mathematics do not prepare you for, what no course, no tutorial, no enthusiastic chart teaches you, is what it costs to be the human being inside the machine. The machine does not feel, it compounds. It is indifferent to your doubt, indifferent to your impatience, indifferent to the tightness in your chest when the market contracts for 3 consecutive months and the account is smaller than it was. And you are watching this from a kitchen table at night, tired, uncertain, continuing. Continuing is the only work being asked of you. It is also, some weeks, the hardest work there is. Not because the math is difficult, because humans are not machines. We are built for confirmation. We are wired for feedback. We need, at some biological level, for the things we do to produce something we can feel. Compounding, in its early years, produces nothing you can feel. You will not believe this yet. That is fine. Here is another way to say it. Imagine someone asks you to water a garden every day for a year. The garden for the first 6 months looks exactly the same as the day you started. Not worse, exactly the same. The act of watering is producing invisible root growth that you cannot see and would not know to measure. You are being asked to continue, daily, on the grounds that the invisible work is real, and that it will eventually produce something visible. This is a description of faith. It is also, precisely and without metaphor, a description of compounding in the early years. The question the chart does not answer. And the only question that matters is whether you can water the garden on the days it gives you nothing. She is 31, 7 years in. The account now holds an amount that, to someone standing outside her life, might look like progress. To her, sitting inside the life, it looks like the beginning of the beginning. She has set a mental threshold. Not spoken, not written down, just held, for the number she needs to see before the project starts to feel real. The account is not there yet. She is patient. She is also tired of being patient. These two things coexist. She calls her mother on a Sunday. She does not mention the account. Her mother asks about work, about the apartment, about the man she has been seeing. She answers each question. At the end of the call, 11 minutes long, she thinks, this is a project whose form does not yet exist in language anyone she loves is using right now. What it cost was not money. What it cost across those years was a form of loneliness that is specific to long-term, invisible practice. You are holding a belief about the future that is not legible to the present. You could speak it, sometimes you do, but it does not travel well. The people who love you most are experiencing the present in the present. You are experiencing the present, and also, faintly, always, the future you are building inside the present. And the gap between those two registers of experience is not painful exactly, but it is real. It is a distance. I have sat with that distance for a long time. I have looked at an account on a Tuesday evening in February when the balance had barely moved in 3 months, and held the specific flatness of that moment. The absence of signal, the absence of confirmation, the number sitting there indifferently, and continued. Not through discipline in the way the word is usually used, as if continuing required force, but through a kind of practice that has more in common with faith than with finance. The texture of a contraction is not abstract. It lives in the chest for a while. It passes slowly. There is a particular temptation in that texture to do something, to adjust, to demonstrate agency in a domain where the correct action is inaction. The urge is not irrational. It is human. It is the body's response to a system that is not responding to the body. And the correct response to the urge is to close the application, make tea, do something that confirms you exist in the present, and return to the practice the following month. The cost is also in the decisions you do not make, the renovation deferred, the trip taken a year later, the car that runs past its convenient life. None of these are sacrifices. The word sacrifice suggests a ceremony, a moment of surrender with witnesses. These are not that. They are the accumulated quiet preference for one future over a collection of smaller presents. You do not announce this preference. You do not explain it at the table. You simply live it, consistently, invisibly, over years. This is the faith no one names when they show you the curve. The curve is real. The mathematics are correct. And the working of the mathematics requires from the person inside it something that no financial model accounts for: the willingness to act without confirmation. Month after month, year after year, on the promise of a future that does not yet have a form you can hold. I have seen this in women who continued through market contractions that cost them sleep, in women who held through the years when life was expensive and the margin was narrow, and the account's growth was invisible against everything else demanding attention. The cost they paid was not in dollars. The cost was in the sustained maintenance of a belief the present had not earned yet. What it cost was not money. What it cost was the ordinary comfort of believing only in what you can see. The rule, the last one, is this: the feeling arrives. It arrives late, and it is quieter than you expected. And that is because it was never going to be triumph. It was always going to be recognition. Recognition is not triumph. It does not announce itself. It does not arrive on a day you anticipated. It arrives the way a season changes. Not dramatically, not on a marked date, but on an ordinary morning when the quality of something is simply different. Something has shifted. You did not feel it shifting. It shifted regardless. The people who leave the practice in the middle years are not undisciplined. Many of them are very disciplined in other domains. What they encounter in the middle years of compounding is the specific difficulty of sustaining action without feedback. And that difficulty is genuine, not imagined, and is not solved by knowing the mathematics better. It is solved, if it is solved, by developing a different relationship to confirmation, by learning to be a person who can act without needing the action to respond. This is not widely taught. It is not the topic of the chart. It is not in the curriculum. It is, however, the invisible variable that separates the people who arrive at year 30 intact from the people who did not. What can be offered is only a description of what the inside of it looks like. Flat, mostly. Often unremarkable. Occasionally cold. And then, slowly, and then suddenly, in the way the curve suggests. Something you recognize not as a rival, but as continuity. The long, unbroken line of a practice held. That is what it feels like. Like proof that the line was never broken. You will not believe this yet. That is fine. The curve does not require your belief. It compounds regardless. The only choice, the single actual choice in all of this, is whether you can sustain the practice for long enough that the practice becomes something else. Something older. Something that no longer requires tending because it has learned to tend itself. She was right, the woman who first named it for me. She never told me the number, never named the account, never made it about the math. She said only, keep going when there is nothing to feel. That is the whole practice. That is all of it. They were right. There is a particular kind of knowledge that only the passage of time produces. Not information. Time does not produce information. Time produces the experience of having held something through all its weathers. The experience of having continued when the season was against you. The experience of arriving somewhere and understanding for the first time the full distance you have crossed. Not because the distance has changed, but because you are now standing on the far side of it and can finally turn around and see. That knowledge is not available at the start. It is not available in the middle. It is available only after, and the only way to have it is to have stayed. The curve bends at year 30, not because of the mathematics, though the mathematics are exact. The curve bends because you did not leave. They were right. Compounding does not feel like anything. That is the first thing they leave out. The second thing they leave out is this. It is not supposed to. The absence of sensation is not a defect in the design. It is the design. The machine runs quietly because quiet is what allows it to run for decades without interruption. The moment you ask it to feel like something, to confirm itself, to signal it's working, to return something in proportion to what you are putting in, you have asked it to be a different kind of machine. It is not that machine. It has never been that machine. What it is this. A system that rewards the particular human capacity to sustain belief without evidence. Not the absence of evidence. The evidence is there, in the mathematics, in the history of returns, in the verified curve. But the absence of felt evidence. The kind of knowing that lives in the body, that confirms through sensation. The mathematics do not change because you are uncertain. The compound rate does not slow because you are tired. The account does not notice the season you almost withdrew. It continued. Because you continued. These two things are inseparable. The machine and the person tending it. And the person tending it is the variable, no chart models. You are that variable. You have always been that variable. That is the cost. And also the point. Compounding does not give you that. It gives you the mathematics. It gives you the curve. It gives you, at year 30, a number that will feel. Not like a reward, not like a victory, but like recognition. The number has been building since you were 24. You have been building since you were 24. These two things are the same thing. Close the tab. Put the money in. Do not check again until next month. The curve is still bending. You cannot feel it bending. It is bending anyway. If this found you at the right time, you know what to do.